Hello and welcome, everyone. Tanya here with New Earth Consciousness, and I'm excited to have TH with us today. She's the expert, and just want to welcome her to the show and thank you for being here.
I am so excited to be here. Happy post-Thanksgiving and happy to be here.
Excellent. So if you're watching, post a comment. If you're watching in the replay, let us know. TH, I would love for you to share your story as to how you ended up in this space of doing what it is that you do. You have a very, you have a transformational journey that you shared with me. I'd love for the audience to hear that.
Absolutely. So my name is TH, and who am I? The woman I am today is very different than the woman that I was, as I'm sure we all have looked back and seen how we've each evolved in our own right. I was following the path, right? I graduated college, and then I met a guy, and then we got engaged, and then we had kids and a dog and moved out to the suburbs, and it all looked great on camera, on pictures, even out in person, until it didn't look so good out in person. And he wasn't there as much, and I was making excuses and I was lying, and it became not part of the plan. It wasn't looking the way it was supposed to look anymore. And I really wasn't hiding it very well, because I started becoming a shell of a person, almost robotic, just making excuses, making sure my kids were up at school. I went to work, I picked them up, we came home, we went to sleep, and we did it again. But I was in a marriage that was not healthy, and not healthy for many reasons. But for me personally, I was lost. I was no one except the mother of these kids and the wife of this guy. And I had a career, I'm smart, I am all of those things. But at the end of the day, when I came home, I was not, my cup was empty. And so my best friend and I, we were all best friend couples, traveled together, did all the things together. All of our pictures look pretty. All of our videos look great. And 13 years into our marriages, we realized that there was infidelity. Now, everybody handles infidelity differently. Jessica handled it very differently than I did. And if you look at us and our stories, the stories are exactly the same on paper. But nobody knows what's going on behind closed doors. And Jessica and I didn't even share what was going on behind our closed doors because we weren't willing to face it. You know, the minute you put something out there and say it, it becomes real.
Right.
And we weren't saying the things. It was harder to say the things and own it and then figure out, like, what the heck am I going to do now? Or just keep like Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
And put up armor and don't feel anything and don't say anything, because then you're going to rock the boat. And then what's going to happen?
Right.
So that was those were my formative years, but I feel like my most formidable years are after my marriage. But formative years for me were in my 20s and up until my late 30s. And I received a phone call from a woman who wanted to know who I was. I had an 8, 6, and 4-year-old at the time. I just came from work. I was picking up my son in the carpool line, and she's asking me questions about my husband. And I'm like, is this insurance or something? Just so you guys all know, this is 2008. We rarely used our phones because they were only actually used to make a phone call. And so I oddly picked up the phone this day, and you and I have spoken about the universe and, do you believe in it or not? For me, I do. I believe in it. I got a phone call that helped me get out of my marriage without guilt. As miserable as I was like, well, what kind of mother am I going to be? I have 3 little kids. It's not kind of selfish of me to end my marriage because I'm unhappy. I'm robbing my kids of a family, or
Mhm.
all of the false messages I was feeding myself over and over and over again. And the truth is, that wasn't the kind of family that they should be in, with their dad absent all the time and me having nothing really to offer. And not really, I was the best role model I could be, but it was pretty shabby. So I was free. I got a phone call that validated everything my gut had been telling me. There's infidelity, there are lies, there's an exorbitant amount of things that I have buried my head in the sand about. And it's time to face it. And so Jessica and I created a platform called X Experts because of our divorce journeys, because of the lack of resources at the time that we both separated from our husbands, which, by the way, was at the exact same time,
Mm.
because our husbands were traveling with their girlfriends while married to us as couples and while married to us. So they were covering for one another. So we
Mhm.
found out at the exact same time that there was cheating going on, and it all imploded on them at the exact same time. But how lucky were we to have one another, to have your best friend lock in
Mm.
step with you, figuring out what the F with divorce. What do we
Mm.
even do?
Mm. Yeah.
So that's why we created X Experts, because there were no resources. If we didn't have each other, we'd have no one. So we were really kind of figuring out our own journey and also realizing that so many people are alone. So many people are misled. So many people are afraid of what's on the other side.
Yeah.
So we created a platform and we talk every day, all the time on Divorce ETC or at exexperts.com about everything. All the questions you're afraid to ask your friend because she might judge you. You don't want to ask your mom because she's going to have an opinion. You don't want to waste time at a lawyer because they're not your therapist and they're also not your friend. They're
Yeah.
literally for hire. So we have created this platform many years after our divorces. Mine took 4 years. Jessica's was a hot minute over a box of Kleenex, but she has been divorced twice. So she is a super X expert.
Mm.
But we've lived so much of it. And we've interviewed over 300 experts who touch your life, either thinking about it in the middle, you're done with divorce, now you're dating, now you're figuring out your style, you need a great therapist, you need to get back to work, or you need to find a job for the first time,
Mm.
or you need to co-parent with somebody you don't like. So
Mm.
we built this platform to really make a difference and empower and educate anyone touched by divorce so you can help your friend, your sister, and yourself.
Yeah.
So that's what pushed me in this direction.
Yeah. Divorce is it's so complex. And it's, each situation is so unique. And unfortunately, I'm curious if you find that um, a lot of women are trapped in relationships with narcissists. Do you find that to be pretty common?
Yes, but I want to go back to something.
Yeah.
Narcissist, I think, was the word of the year last year. And
Yes.
including Taylor Swift, including it in her song and all of that other stuff. If
Yeah.
you are in a relationship with a difficult person, that is one thing that can certainly be remedied. If you are in a relationship with a true narcissist, which is a mental disorder,
Mhm.
there is a lot of recovery on the other side of not being married to that person anymore. So for me, it wasn't like, can I swear on this podcast?
Yes.
Oh,
Feel
it's not like being married to an asshole. So we did a podcast, narcissist versus asshole. There's a difference.
Uh-huh.
Jessica's husband was an asshole. He
Mm.
had narcissistic tendencies, but the big difference is he took responsibility. He wanted repair. He wanted to go to therapy. He
Mm,
wanted to do anything he could to make up
mm,
for the damage he had caused. And the thing here, everybody, is taking responsibility.
right.
When you are married to a true narcissist, it's never their fault. Like nothing, not even a
Yeah,
shred of it. It's
yeah,
all my fault. All of it. I allowed it, I enabled it, I created it. They float above. So how do you move on from a relationship like that? So I think a lot of people think they are in a relationship with a narcissist, and I hope for many of you that you are wrong
yeah,
and you are just in a relationship with someone who's really difficult, and you now need to figure out how to not engage with that person in that same manner anymore and to unravel bad patterns. But if you are in a relationship with a true narcissist, I will tell you, for me, finding a therapist who I happen to have had at the time, who did specialize in this unbeknownst to me, again, hence the universe for me. Um, the only thing that we worked on for the first year of my divorce was deciphering fact from noise. I thought everything was factual. I thought everything he said, he was right on, and I was wrong.
mm,
But that is incorrect. And learning how to really hear messages from that type of a person differently has been a journey for me. And look, you could be in a relationship with someone like that for work, as a colleague, it could be a parent, it could be a friend, it could be all the above. And then you really need some help. So don't be afraid to ask for help. We did this 2-part series, like I said, narcissist versus asshole, um, divorcing a difficult person. Those are among our top ranked podcasts
mhm.
on the Divorce ETC podcast. So I think a lot of people believe they are married to a narcissist, but
Yeah,
most of them are not.
right.
And that's great.
Right, right. Yeah, it is an overused word. And yeah, the narcissists are extreme. And the other thing that I've learned about narcissists is that they can be very charming, which is why if you're an empath, like the empath narcissist relationship,
Mhm.
tend to be drawn to the narcissist because they just, they love to adore somebody, put them on a pedestal, whatever, and the narcissist eats that up, they really, um, they can be super charming in the beginning until if you start
Until
calling
they're
them,
not.
yeah, until you start calling them out, and then that's when everything starts hitting the fan.
And it
Um,
may get to a point that you can't find your voice to call it out.
yeah,
You can't find your voice, or you're believing everything that is being said, which was me. And so why would I challenge him? He's right.
mhm,
That's what gaslighting is.
yeah,
That's what, so if there are terms that that this audience is uncomfortable with, reach out to us or to Tanya. Like, this is also not intentional on their part, which
mhm,
is really hard because you want to blame them.
yeah.
But this is just how they're wired.
Yeah, it's like they literally don't realize what they're doing at all. It doesn't register. There's nothing
Right.
registering.
Right. And
Yeah.
I listen, he doesn't get a pass for that as far as I'm concerned. But
Yeah.
it just doesn't work for me. But he has remarried, and whatever it is healthier for them now in his new relationship. But that was never going to be for me. And the day that I got that phone call, I told her that she saved my life. She
Mm,
literally saved my life. I could not find my way out. The fear and the overwhelm were paralyzing me. I had
mhm,
everything in front of me. I had friends taking me to lawyers and psychologists. I even went to a psychologist, and he's like, "Listen, you have a choice. You can stay and eat shit, or you can leave." And I stayed because I
mm,
didn't believe that I could move past.
mhm,
And so if you don't get the phone call, what I would recommend to everybody is listen to the people around you.
mm.
who are not your husband or wife. And just stop and listen for a minute and write in a journal, and you will come to it on your own. No one can make you do anything because you will resent them for doing it. It has to be on your own terms, in your own time. Because, like Tanya said, every divorce is different. Every relationship is different. The circumstances, the people around you is all unique to you. But all I'm saying is you don't have to be in that relationship. There is so much more for you to discover, an opportunity for you on the other side.
Yeah. I'm curious about the journey afterwards because, if someone's been in a dysfunctional marriage for, a length of time, do you find that what is yeah, do you see kind of like I guess I'm trying to think of, oftentimes, people talk about the stages of grief,
Yeah.
lose somebody. With divorce, is there a certain, do you see a certain cycle that people go through? Because I remember a friend who, and she was married for, I can't remember how long, but she had several children, wasn't happy, decided to end the marriage, but and she ended up just kind of swinging way the other way, like, now she was free and just like ended up with like the worst person possible. It was like that the good girl in her was like wanting to just totally rebel and just go way off the deep end, right? And kind of
Yeah.
just I don't know, maybe explore her dark side or the suppressed, side of herself that was so caged up in the relationship. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of scary. I mean, and thankfully she got out of that situation. But
Good.
it's like, do you see that happens when women get divorced and they're just like, oh, okay, now I'm really just gonna whatever, let it rip.
Warrior, we call it that we're whoring ourselves out. We
Mm,
whore ourselves out for someone just to say you're so pretty.
mhm,
We whore ourselves out for sex. By the way, this is not just women. There are
mhm.
men who do this because you have been so deprived of a loving touch,
Yeah, just
a
attention.
loving glance, a
Mhm,
compliment, someone who wants and is interested in what you have to say. Whatever you have been missing in your relationship, you don't have to be married to be going through this. If you're in any relationship that's over and you're starved for something, obviously it's like you're starved for food. You haven't eaten. You're going
right,
to gorge
right.
and then you're going to be sick.
Mhm,
And so you can go and kind of whore yourself around town, but just know that that's not going to land you where you need to be. But what it will do, if you have your eyes open, is it will teach you a lot. So
mhm,
I'm sure your friend, in the end, leaving that relationship, learned a lot about herself. I
yeah,
went on a date with a guy maybe a year and a half after I separated, and he went to hold my hand to cross the street. And I pulled my hand away. And I literally remember it to this day. In my head, I'm thinking, I don't need you to fucking hold my hand. I could cross the goddamn street myself. This poor guy
yeah,
was just being a nice guy, being
uh-huh,
sweet to hold my hand to cross the street. And in that moment, in
mm,
my head, I was like, I need help. I am
mhm,
not ready to date.
yeah,
I'm not ready. I'm not even going to receive this nice guy
mhm,
because I'm not in a place. So if you're going out because you want to have sex or you want to have free dinners or you want to dance all night, tell your friends where you're going, give them your phone number and location,
mhm,
and bring protection with you. Every woman should bring protection right after a separation, because if you find yourself vulnerable and you had a few, too many, and you're
mm,
in whatever position you're in, no pun intended, make sure you're protected. Sexually transmitted diseases are rampant for you at that stage, especially because you're super vulnerable. So you don't want to get sick and you don't want another baby.
mhm,
So that's my warning in that. And then before that, you were mentioning stages of grief.
yeah,
I know that when I got my phone call, I had already grieved. It was done. It had been 4 years of turmoil and sadness and how do I do all this? It wasn't shocking to me. It was a hallelujah.
Mm.
But Jessica was grieving. Jessica had been with her husband half her life. She was 36 when she separated. She met him at 18. Who
Wow.
was she if she wasn't Darren and Jessica?
Mm.
Who was she if she wasn't Jessica, with their shared last name? And so that was very sad for her. And for me, I was already, I know, many steps ahead, because even though I didn't say it out loud and I didn't act on it, I knew it. I was so struggling, especially the last 2 years of my marriage. I can't believe that I couldn't find my way, but I couldn't find my way. So there is grief. Then there's anger, because then things are unraveling after you separate that you weren't aware of. Maybe there was stealing. Maybe you're in debt.
Mm.
Maybe you're not on the house after all. Maybe a million things. I'm not looking to scare all of you, but there will be anger, because how long have you been with her? And where did you go with her? And
Mm.
where were my kids?
Mhm.
So, yes, grief and anger. And then at a point, there is acceptance. And it happens for everybody at different times. So, our advice all the time when you're struggling, whether it's divorce, a relationship, or anything in your life, is to give yourself grace, right? I'm sure you tell people that all the
Mm.
time, Tanya. Like,
Mm.
you're only human. You're only literally doing the best you can do. Is it not good enough? Who's judging? Who says? Tell them to come and stand in your shoe and do that whole thing on repeat, and
Mm.
let's see how it works out for them.
Right.
So just give yourself grace, reset, do healthy things for yourself, because any and all of those stages of grief are difficult.
Mhm.
And I found the most difficult part was what it revealed about me, not so much about him. We all know about him,
Right.
but stuff that I really needed to work on, mistakes I was making, things I was allowing to have happen. That was me. There was a reel I just posted today, and she said, just don't consent. So simple. It's not
Mm.
easy to do, but it is a simple idea. Just don't consent. I don't like the way you're treating me. I don't consent to this. I don't like the way I'm feeling. I don't consent to this. All of that. And it's not like we're dumb. It's just we have so much going on in our brains. So I just also want to remind everybody on this show that you have a choice, and you don't have to consent to
Mm.
things that are not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to ask you about the kids. How what did you find? How did you support them through this process? What did they need the most?
Financially or emotionally or both.
Yeah, maybe both. Yeah.
So financially, we were fortunate. Um, we had a comfortable lifestyle. Emotionally, though, I was literally a single parent for 4 years.
Mhm.
And I would tell myself that it's better this way because I don't have any negative energy around me. I make all the rules. Nobody's challenging me. No one's also offering other options. No one's helping me with carpool. No one's helping me juggle an 8, 6, and 4-year-old with all their play dates and all their activities and all their things. And I'm freaking exhausted.
Mhm.
Nobody.
Mhm.
But I was afraid to ask anybody. I'm supposed to be handling it all, right? I could do this.
Mhm.
And so I showed up the best way that I could for my kids. I was always there. And now my kids are 25, 23, and almost 21. And I will tell you that showing up the best way that I could at every stage from then till now. I speak to them basically every day. One of my daughters moved back home with me for a little while. They call me just because.
Mhm.
And there's no greater gift than that. How did I do it? I learned to co-parent with my ex with the help of my therapist. I set boundaries. I made mistakes. I mean, I definitely shit talk him in the house, and I thought the kids couldn't hear until one of my daughters was like, "Stop talking about dad."
Mhm. Yeah.
And I didn't know. I mean, I knew, but I didn't know, but I was naive. So if you ever want to vent, literally your kids cannot physically be in the house. Go in your car, go for a walk, no one within earshot, and also be careful who you talk to because
Right.
they like to talk to other
Mm.
people.
Right. Yeah.
Um, Also, I always told my kids, like, they would come home sometimes upset from coming from their dads. And as much as I wanted to badmouth him, I did not. I held my tongue and I put it back on them because this is what my therapist taught me to basically say, I see you're really upset. Do you want a hug? Don't give a solution. Don't give an excuse for whatever happened over there. Just acknowledge their feelings and
Mm.
listen because they just want to be heard just like we do.
Mhm.
So the last thing is when my kids had questions, I just let them ask the question, no matter what it was. And if I wasn't comfortable answering, I would say I'm not comfortable answering. I tried not to lie. If I didn't have an answer, like how long is this going on for and why this and why that, as far as the divorce and the money and dad and vacation and whatever, I would say, I don't have an answer for you right now. But when I do, you will be the first to know.
Mhm.
So that they knew that I wasn't hiding anything. They don't have to know everything.
Right.
And the last really important piece of advice, as far as your kids are concerned, is they are not your friend. They are your kids. You should never bring them into your process. You should never, like I said before, shit talk your ex to them, in front of them, around them. You have to be cream that rises to the top. So just be that for them because that's how they want you to be. That's how they see you. And you
Mhm.
don't want to fill their head with, so, I came home from court today. You guys want to hear what happened? So this happened, that's going to happen. And then the other thing, and then this. And
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, they may not be ready to absorb anything like that. And maybe they just don't want to know.
Right.
So let them ask you the questions. Don't
Mhm.
fill their head with things that they don't need to know. And they don't need to know about the cheating,
Yeah. I'm glad that you brought that up.
right? So many people are like, well, they need to know what he or she did. No, they do not. They do not. They
Yeah.
will come to it in their own time and then they will ask the question. And one of my kids did ask me the question. I told them to ask their dad.
Mm.
I said,
Mhm.
it's not my story, although Jessica disputes that answer because we did live on the other side of it. But I said, I don't have the reasons why that happened. If you want to, you should ask him.
Mm.
And so that's how I learned to co parent. And I also made a very strict parenting plan because of the person that I was married to. I wanted it written in stone, the vacations, the parenting time, the shared expenses, saving for college, paying for cars. If they go to college out of state, who's paying for the flights? What about when child support ends? Who's paying for them all summer? Where is all that money coming from? We have all those resources for you, but there are a lot of things that have to be buttoned up. You can decide to be flexible, but you can never go back. If you give up and you're like, okay, take them for a week every other week, and that's not in your agreement, then you better be ready for a week every other week, because now you're setting a standard.
Mm-hmm.
So don't bring your kids into the process. Only answer the questions that they have to ask, and try to keep your conversations about your ex and your frustrations in general away from them, because they're going to worry about you. They don't want you hurt. They don't want you sad. They don't want you crying. You don't want them to have to worry that you're going to be okay.
Mm.
You're going to be okay.
Right. Right. It's definitely so needed, the space that you created for women going through divorce, because I feel like there's a lot of shame around it, I mean, it's so often where, just in my experience, I've never been through, divorce myself, but, a few of the friends that have gone through divorce, it's like out of the blue. Like, I didn't see it coming, right? Like, I
Yeah.
thought you guys were happy, like, there's
Out of
never
the blue for you as a
for me,
friend
that's
or
what
for
I'm
them?
saying,
Oh,
for
right. Right.
me,
You
for
don't
me.
know what's going on behind closed doors.
And there because I think there's shame, and so I think this space that you've created, it's like it's a safe space because yeah, of course, why would you wanna I mean, it's a vulnerable very vulnerable place to be, especially if you've been in a long-term relationship and there's like you were saying, there's been this image that's created. This is how everybody perceives us, you know? And, yeah, it takes a lot to, come it's kind of like coming out of the closet, just being like, "Oh, guess what? Actually, we're not doing well, and actually, I've been miserable for this
Yeah.
many years, and this is all the stuff that's been under the rug that I haven't
Yeah.
shared with anybody. It's been affecting my kids, blah, 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 all those things." And so, um, yeah, it's not worth it to keep yourself isolated. That's for sure. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
Don't stay isolated and, yeah, find someone or space like what TH has created to find those resources and to find the strength and the I guess the faith and the fortitude to like, okay, come to accept where you are. Be like, okay, this is where I am. I'm ready to deal with it. Even though I don't know what it's gonna look like on the other side. Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't have to deal with it alone.
Yeah.
Like, I just want everyone to know that, first of all, you can go to your house of worship. You can go to a therapist. You can certainly call us. You can reach out to Tanya. I mean, sometimes it's easier to talk to someone who doesn't know anything about you, because we have no judgment.
Mhm.
I mean, I personally and Jessica will tell you like it is, but we have lived it. So we are shining examples that your life is going to be great. Is it easy to get there? No. Are you going to stumble? Yes. But that would have happened whether you got a divorce or not.
Yeah.
Divorce is a hot minute in your life if you consent to let it be a hot minute in your life. If you drag it on and you focus on things that are never going to resolve, like you're never changing him or her, you are going to compromise during your divorce as far as money and assets. There is no other way. That's just the way it is.
Mhm.
So you do have to find a place where you are in a stage of acceptance of certain things, because you're not going to change it. All you're going to do is hurt yourself and delay your ability to move forward in your life. So you don't want that.
Right. Right. TH, what are your offers right now? What do you have? How can people connect with you?
So for X experts, it's experts.com. And you can click on the link right on our homepage if you want to set up a free connection call with us. We are your girlfriends through it all. We have an arsenal of over 200 divorce experts regardless of where you live in the country. We are on the East Coast. I know Tanya's on the West Coast. Um, but we have experts who will support you all across the country. So starting with a connection call is probably your greatest first step. And it's me. You're going to be talking to me, and I'm definitely going to like help you take your first clean, full breath. I also do in-person experiences in New Jersey, in Northern New Jersey. So if you are in the area, you can go to th-experiences with an S at the end.com. Women for Women Today has been my next pivot. Divorce, again, was a hot minute for us. We have moved on. We have done other things. I am in my forever relationship now. I'm in a really, really great, probably the best place of my life. And so I'm paying it forward with these role model type of events where I bring in mentors and we talk about permission to pivot. And we talk about sharing your story and owning your story and figuring out your superpower. That's a hard thing. Like, I'm sure my friends can name a million things that are my superpowers, but for me to own one is more challenging. And we connect at a very deep level at these events. They are all in person. And if you reach out through X Experts, I can also carry you into the in-person events.
Beautiful. Awesome. TH, thank you so much for being here. I just love your energy and just the clarity that you hold for women going through this experience, and also the empowering experiences that you're now doing with these in-person events for women. So yeah, anyone that's watching, don't hesitate to reach out to TH. You can message her on Facebook, and you see her website here. So TH, thank you so much for being here and shining your light.
It was such a pleasure to make this connection with you, Tanya, across the country. I feel very honored to be here and share with your audience. So thank you so much. I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, awesome. All right, much love, everybody, and until next time, bye for now.
Bye.